Hi guys, let's talk a little bit more about Qigong today. Welcome. So, the first question I got is, I'm not going to say his name because it was through email, and this is a common one. He said, Adam, I'm very anxious. I'm getting a lot of panic attacks. I'm sorry to hear that. I have trouble getting started. I know Qigong is good for me because I read online about the benefits of meditation. However, I'm really having a hard time starting. What can I do? I also don't have a discipline to stay motivated. Do emotions need to be healed, wetness, or release? Well, that's a lot of questions. I'll take it one at a time. It's very common for people to have a hard time starting meditation, no matter what tradition, because the mind's always going. And it's probably 10 times harder for most people that are suffering from panic attacks, anxiety, and depression, which is pretty much a catch-22, right? Because on one hand, through research and through tradition and culture, and even common sense, we know meditation and calming down is good for anxiety, stress, chronic fatigue, depression. So we know it's good for us. But at the same time, it's extremely difficult to meditate when you're under that much mental stress, right? And I've been there because for those that follow my work and know my story, a few years ago I was really sick and it didn't go away. Eventually, it went from being physically sick to emotional when it wasn't cured, and I ended up having anxiety and depression as well. And it was very difficult to sit still or to stand still. And we know from previous episode in Taoism, the static practices of not moving, such as standing and sitting, is actually the core and the most powerful part of the practice in terms of energy, power, and also emotional healing and spirituality. But when I was really sick, right, and I knew I had to sit or stand still, energy aside, it's extremely difficult to stand still when you're very, very anxious and your mind's going a million miles an hour. So you need to move. So to answer your first question, I have a lot of trouble standing or sitting still. Then maybe you should look into movement practices, maybe at least for the first 10 minutes of your session. So if you want to do sitting meditation for, let's say, an hour, or you're aiming for half an hour, or maybe you're just aiming for 15 minutes to feel a lot better, then maybe start your session with 10 minutes of movement. I recommend any kind of medical Qigong for that. Wild Goose Qigong, it's very good for that. But I mean, I know Tai Chi is really popular, but it mainly works on a horizontal plane. It's better to do something that works in a vertical. So you have a higher chance to connect to the root, because a lot of our suffering comes from the horizontal plane, right? Whether you're going to work or a traffic jam or a relationship breakup or a business problem, anything, all this is horizontal. There's no problems here and usually no problems here, right? So when you expand your awareness on a vertical plane, it has a more relaxing kind of benefit for you. So any kind of movement Qigong that is authentic usually works on a vertical plane anyways. For you to learn movement is very important. It's very good for energy. You learn to open up your pores. You learn to open up your bones. But I do not recommend the common stuff. Like most of the time, if we go online and search Qigong, most of it's movement. And most of the movement is just people waving their arms around, moving slow. And just because you move slow, it doesn't mean it's good Qigong. There's more to it than just moving slow. There's a lot of internal mechanics involved, from breathing to how to root your joints, to how to open up your joints, to open up your pore, to doing bone breathing and expanding the inside of the body. There's a lot of internal mechanics you have to learn. It's not just about moving slow and moving any way you like. So that's the first thing. Second thing, even if you do learning a good moving Qigong set, right, it's very important to try to pick a lineage or pick a style that is not overly structured. Having structured movement, like you do this, you do this, you do this, but you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this. You have to be very precise. So that's what I mean by structure. It's very precise, and you're holding a very specific shape, right? That kind of work is very good in the beginning to set the container to build power. So I have no problems with it. It's really good. But the problem is, when someone is really anxious or very stressful, the idea of holding a shape will stress them out even more. So it's better to pick a style or a lineage that emphasizes movement, that's more free, almost like a drunk person, that's shapeless. That's more in alignment with the Tao or Taoism, which is the way of nature. That's one translation, right? Because if you walk in the woods you'll never see a right angle. You look at trees, it's wiggly, right? You look at the river, it's wiggly. You look at clouds, there's no rectangle, triangle, or perfect squares. That's a human thing, to be a control freak and being precise in terms of shape, in geometry. In nature, everything is wiggly. So the older systems of Qigong, not the modern stuff, is definitely more wiggly, more formless, and less structured than the more modernized Qigong that was developed to teach the masses during the medical crisis in China in the 50s and 60s. But you want to pick a lineage that's more free. So I recommend older systems like Heaven and Earth Qigong or Heaven Mountain Qigong or Wild Goose Qigong. So there's a lot of lineages out there, but you have to really dig and look around. By doing free movement Qigong like that, what happens is, forget about the higher level of spontaneous movement and all that, or feeling the Qi and all that. Just moving in a just moving in a shapeless way, in a slow manner, will relax your mind and body in time. That will probably give you a good chance to be able to sit still. Even not for a long time, even if just 15 minutes, right? So when I was really sick and my mind was going a lot, that's what I did. I knew I needed to move, so I went and learned the Heaven Mountain tradition from my mentor and good friend Steve Smith. And for those interested, go to littledojo.com. He's a first-rate master. So when I was learning the Heaven Mountain system, the first thing they did was movement. And that really helped me. And I knew I needed to learn that because I was trying to sit still at the time, but I knew I was too sick to even attempt it, right? So after I learned all the movements, when I was practicing it, usually about 10 to 15 minutes, I was calm enough and relaxed enough that I can easily sit for half an hour. Instead of forcing myself to sit down, my body's aching, my mind is going, right? So that's the first thing. Your second question, that you're not disciplined enough to stick. That really reminds me of what the founder of Zen in the Shaolin Temple, Datmo in Chinese, he said, those who come to the Dharma comes with great suffering. That's true, because I learned Qigong maybe, I was 18, so 32 years ago. But I never practiced full time. I mean, 90% or 80% of my practice was martial arts, and about 20% or 30% was Qigong. But when I got really sick, 100% my practice became Qigong and 0% martial art. And now that I'm healed and I'm fully recovered, now my practice is about 80% Qigong and 20% martial art. So if I'd never been that sick before, I probably never would have went full time into Qigong. So the Grand Master, ancestor, founder of Zen, Datmo in the Shaolin Temple, in my opinion, he's 110% right. Those who come to the Dharma come with great suffering. That's why, there's a good Zen and also Taoist thinking that when people suffer a lot, it could be a blessing because that's what gets your foot in the door. At least in my case anyways, if I haven't been really sick, there's no way I would have ended up doing Qigong full time, which now I understand in my body is the best thing I ever did. And I'm so glad I almost died a few years ago because it got my foot in the door. So when it comes to discipline, instead of framing it like I'm going to force myself to do this for a certain benefit, which it might not last, right? Instead of doing that, maybe look at it from a Zen point of view. Those who come to the Dharma come with great suffering. Is your suffering getting any better if you do nothing about it? Should you take the medicine? Does the medicine work? How long does it take? Can I actually do it? So you got a lot of doubting questions in your head. Whenever that happens, just jump in. Just practice. Don't make it a chore. Enjoy it the best you can. Do it the first thing in the morning. Before you brush your teeth, before you wash your face, before you check your email. Don't give yourself a chance to start doing this and walk away and get distracted. As soon as you get up, there's an old Zen saying in the Tang Dynasty, this monk is a story where when he gets up, he sits up straight, opens his eyes, and he goes, who owns his body? I do. Who owns his mind? I do. That's the first thing he says when he gets up. I always thought that's a funny story, but it illustrated a good Zen principle, and that is to cut through. So Zen's very hard, especially Sato Zen. So I hope that helps you, right? As soon as you get up, practice. You jump out of bed, you start moving right away. You practice. You don't even get a cup of coffee. You don't do anything. And I hope that helps you, right? But in our age, in the information age, the digital age, is very difficult. People usually argue online about martial arts, different styles and techniques, or they argue about Qigong, or they argue about, everyone's arguing. But I don't know if they notice. They're really pretty much fighting over information because we live in an information age. But information and knowledge does not help anybody. Look at the fitness industry. The knowledge is there. Anyone can hire a personal trainer or download an app or read articles on Google or even hire an advanced personal trainer. Anyone can do that. Knowledge is easy as long as you have a credit card. And if you don't have a credit card, you can just look online. There's fitness knowledge everywhere. But talking to people that were friends that manage a gym tell me 85% of the people with a gym membership don't even bother showing up. So knowledge that people argue about does not cure anything. It's not knowledge that makes the difference. What makes the difference is the discipline to show up and do the work. And because we frame it as discipline and we frame it as work in our minds, automatically, of course, there's a resistance. Because we have a natural resistance towards hard work, especially if we're suffering, right? So don't frame it as hard work. The movements of Qigong in meditation is a beautiful thing. Look at it as a massage for your heart and your mind and your body. It's like going to get a massage. Don't look at it like you're going to work hard, right? Because you're not. At first, it might feel uncomfortable like anything else, but you really got to have the compassion to give yourself a chance. So that's enough nagging for today, and I hope that helps you. Please leave your questions below, guys, or any topics you want me to cover about Taoism or Qigong. And see you next time. Take care.